Alright, so before I begin today's video, wow, 98 subscribers. You guys are crazy. And with that out of the way, today we are going to be reviewing my FNAF movie theory and see where I was right and where I was wrong. So, hey guys, Ostentatious here. And without further ado, let's get right into the show.
Just from the title, I know what you must be thinking. The movie isn't even out yet. How in the world is this nobody already sure that he solved it? And to that,
And you know what? I was sure. About 50% sure.
now, before I get into the meat and potatoes of this theory, I do have to preface that if I'm right, then this whole theory is going to be spoiler territory.
Alright, tripping over my words. But with that being said, good point here. This is spoiler territory, so if you don't want to get spoiled, don't watch it yet. I mean, it's out on Peacock. You should, go watch it, I guess.
Want a fresh mind for the movie, then I suggest that you click off this video until you've seen it. But make sure to come back to see if I was cooking with this theory. And to make sure you don't forget,
What type of slang am I
to help me
using?
provide more content for you guys. Without
For real, guys, that subscribe button, whew, magical stuff right there. Let's get to that triple digit number. That'd be insane.
sister, young girl he's
It's-
caring for with
Alright, I put the question mark up at sister, and that was actually kind of crazy since that's what it turned out to be. So, I don't know. That definitely wasn't like me knowing what it was, but, I kind of like manifested it in my own special way, I guess.
him to his night shift position. From here, the details blur, but we know Vanessa, the officer,
See, what am I doing with this editing? Guys, who let me behind the computer? Like, what is this bullcrap?
introduces Mike to his new family at Freddy's.
It's not getting better.
Some animatronics do things, red eyes, and Golden Freddy right.
See, and I'm still in memes and shit. Alright, but I did make this, and I still need an answer to this question. That man does not fit in the taxi, alright? I don't care you can see the white outline. How is this man in this taxi, alright? Someone explain it, please.
We also get what appears to be a dream sequence with the dead spirits. And after, the reveal of William Afton in the spring Bonnie suit.
This was a fire picture, alright? I don't care what anyone says. This was so hyped to see in the theaters.
This we know is true because those FNAF 3 minigames have the same layout to the FNAF 1 movie.
See, and I felt this had a lot of merit to it. Because my original theory is basically we're going to be watching the events of the mini games that we watch in FNAF 3. And I came to this because of how we see Springtrap get spring locked in these mini games, and that's the only time we see him in the spring Bonnie suit before getting spring trapped. But then obviously we come to the thing of the movie where it's like, oh, well, he's going to be in the costume, so that's kind of where these parallels started to connect for me.
However, what if we were wrong about FNAF 1 and instead the first game does take place in a recently closed Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria?
Okay, so this little snippet that I said does have a bit of merit to it. Seeing that in the movie, the building is around and popular in the 80s, but I'm pretty sure that the paycheck is from the 90s. So that would go to say that this place is in fact closed down. And I know there is a lot of, hey, what is actually canon to FNAF 1, because we're in that weird position where we know that's not where the story was originally crafted out, but was later developed in FNAF 2 and going forward, making sense of what was happening in FNAF 1. So, although I don't think the movie directly spells out the actual lore for the game series, I do think it shines a light more on what is happening in FNAF 1, where I do believe we are seeing Mike working at a closed down Freddy Fazbear's.
As we all should know, the Five Nights at Freddy's lore is something that wasn't originally planned but was later worked on as the series progressed, adding more and more onto the previous game.
Oh man, the reading on that was rough. I've watched this a couple times because I'm trying to get a little bit better at the reading scripts and stuff. But, whew, when did this become a critique about me and not the theory itself?
What does that make of our movie story? Our movie starts out with Mike getting fired from.
All right, another thing. So, trying to find the tone that works best for you two, because all of this is a learning process, of course. This time I went with like a whispering tone because it's supposed to be like a spooky whatever blah blah blah. But to me it's coming off as like fake edge. I don't know. That's just me though. Maybe. Who knows?
From his job as mall security for being aggressive towards a customer or shoplifter.
Okay. I was right about the aggressiveness, but it was a customer, not a shoplifter. And it was tied to his dream sequences or like his past with the child because he thought it was getting taken away, which I thought was pretty well. Okay, I'm going to be the first to say I like the movie. It's very cheesy, very campy, but I think that's what you would want from a Five Nights at Freddy's movie. It may not have been the scariest, but it had a definitive tone to it that I really appreciated as a longtime fan of the series.
At the end of his rope, he finally finds a position at the old abandoned Freddy Fazbear's Pizza.
Okay, and then this is interesting because he didn't really look for a job. He just went to Steve Raglan and he was like, it's going to be hard to place you somewhere, but guess what? Got a position for you.
It's a role as the night guard. Without the money to hire a sitter, Mike has to bring the little girl with him.
Also, the money to hire a sitter part, not too accurate. But I will say, the way they got rid of the sitter was my favorite part of the movie. You know what I'm talking about, if you know what I'm talking about.
Vanessa seems off with her knowledge of the animatronics, as if she might become important in a later movie.
See, this was almost right. I think the biggest the biggest issue in my theory is the screen time of Vanessa compared to William Afton. It was my belief that we would see more from William Afton, and I think that's more of a pipe dream because I was just excited to see Matthew Lillard embody this role. And so I expected Vanessa to become important in later installments. Although she is still, from the end of the movie, it seems she's going to be important in the later movies. She definitely had a bigger part in this movie than what I believe she would have had, especially compared to what I thought Purple Guy was going to have.
As the nights progress, Mike begins to have visions.
So, the visions were not correct. They were dream sequences. I guess they kinda are visions, but really it's just the ghost kind of like popping into his dream and being like, hey, here's a ticket for what you want, blah blah blah.
From the spirits that haunt the animatronics, leaving a trail of breadcrumbs to their fate, and more importantly, to their killer.
So this was almost right. It didn't really leave breadcrumbs to the killer, but it definitely gave clues as to what happened. But then obviously later we learned that their memories were being tainted by Springtrap with the pictures on the walls, which I thought that narrative plotline tied really well, seeing that it starts with the girl drawing pictures and whatnot, and then that being the solution at the end. I thought that was a nice little narrative like loop. Like it really fit in.
A murderous William Afton has been taking notes of the animatronics' extra movements, as it seems they possess their own sense of free will.
This was another thing. I didn't expect William Afton to have knowledge about the animatronics. I was expecting more of a, what do you say, a figuring out, because in the games he's depicted as like this mad scientist that was running these crazy experiments and making these crazy robots. But then in the movie, it turns out he's just gaslighting, manipulating, girl boss, gatekeeping the kids and the robots to hunt other kids, which, what an asshole.
Knowing these are the locations of the missing murder victims, Afton wants to take a closer look into how these machines can portray life. So he takes it upon himself to disassemble the animatronics one by one to study them and to perform his own
See, this was really shaky to start off with. Like, there was no real basis for the disassembling animatronics bit, except for the mini games, of course, which is the strong, like, base for this entire theory. But it is still very interesting how they went with the movie.
experiments. However, now that these spirits are in danger, they start warning and pleading to the little girl of the dangers of William Afton.
Not exactly. Instead, it's the animatronics inviting, playing, and welcoming the girl into her circle instead of begging for her help like I had initially thought. They did have more comfort in communicating with the girl than any of the adults, which obviously, because they're kids murdered by an adult, the FNAF basics.
Tries to stop him, getting himself trapped and locked into our Freddy death machine. And now as Mike finds his own freedom, the little...
See, not exactly. The death machine came because of his own idiocy. He went back to the location, to try to get answers to his brother and whatnot. And so they put him into the thing. But it plays out a bit differently. Because then he goes and is taken to, like, the police department where Vanessa patches him up. And then, meanwhile, we have the next part, which I think I'm about to get into, so I'd like to have that play before I talk about it.
Girl, using visions from these restless spirits, finds her way to the vengeful spirit.
And that's what it is. See, I'm going to say that I think Golden Freddy, or she found Golden Freddy, and she took Golden Freddy to the restaurant to confront the Spring Boy, Bob, whatever, But it was actually the exact reverse of that. So talk about taking an L. Where we have Golden Freddy taking Abby to basically become one of them.
Corner William Afton in his spring Bonnie suit. Where one wrong move...
Okay, this is kind of close, They all are there, but instead Abby draws the picture to show what actually happened to the kids. And then after they corner him and,
sets off the suit, spring-locking William Afton as he crumples.
This is the piece I am so happy to have gotten right, because if anything, all I wanted to see was Springtrap get spring-locked.
Revealing a post-credit scene where the co-owner of the restaurant gets called to observe the situation. Where Henry shows up to see his co-owner, William Afton, still gripping onto life in a trap of his own design.
This part, I'm so upset about, because I was almost right with. I was really expecting Henry to show up to, like, prelude to the next installment of this movie series. But instead, of course, it was instead just the ghost of Freddy who closes the door on Springtrap. And it's so close to what I said, just minus the Henry part. And it wasn't part of the post-credits scene.
Henry, seeing this, boards up the back room, and that's where our movie ends.
Close.
Now, with this being said, this is all just speculation, and I don't...
For real, it's just a theory, guys. Actually, I didn't have anyone, bash me, but I'm also kind of small. Which, 300 views, I am geeking at. And all of the kind comments you guys have left, man, y'all made me cry. I was like, oh, I'm actually doing something people care about. That's better than working a 9 to 5.
The break-in scenes we see, which I think can be explained as William being able to control the animatronics and sending them out to take care of the trespassers.
See, this would have been... It's kind of correct since William has some type of effect on him, but my thought process was not correct in general. Especially because I thought this was the inciting incident for needing the night guard, but instead this was an incident that occurred because of the night guard. And then we saw how it got handled in a very fun sequence.
I do feel very confident in seeing William Afton getting spring-locked at the end of the movie. With the trailers showing us our second ever time seeing a pre-spring-locked William Afton in a suit, with the only other time we've seen this being directly before he gets spring-locked in FNAF 3.
At least I was right about this.
That'll be our climax of the movie. But with that being said, only time.
What is with the pause there?
Right, I am with this theory. Probably mostly wrong.
Exactly.
This is just a theory, and if you're gonna direct hate.
All right, before I get all negative Nancy about directing hate towards me, whatever. So, I just was recording B-roll footage, and so I played FNAF 1 because it ties in with what we're doing, and cannot believe literally I played for 2 times. The first time I died by Bonnie, as you saw, and then I make it when the power goes out on the 5th night. That's crazy. That's wild. But anyways.
Towards me for it, then how dense are you?
Yeah, don't be dense, I guess.
Else, I hope you enjoyed my theory, and if you watched this far, you should consider subscribing, as my content...
As I stumbled on my words, yes, please do consider subscribing. But more than that, please leave a comment. It's weird, but that's my favorite thing. I love when you guys like say something to me, because then I can reply back to you guys, and I love building that like community where I just get to, you know, meet all these different people that I never would typically get to know. So yes, please subscribe, and more than that, leave a comment. How you like the video, you know, what you expect from the future movies, stuff like that. I will try to reply to everybody, as you could probably tell from all my older videos. And yeah, I don't really think I need to let this play out. You guys saw it. You know, I got my check. Mike Schmidt. Expect a review at some point for the actual movie instead of just my theory. But yeah, thank you guys. We'll see you guys later. Bye.